All right, you're building online courses, and then you come to the essential question, which is, do I need a separate LLC for my online courses and PDFs and guides that I want to sell? Let's jump right into it. I get that question all the time. If you don't know who I am, I'm Scott Radigan, the founder of Functional Lawyer. And inside our Functional Lawyer membership, we have weekly office hours where people will ask me questions. So I'm pulling this one directly from that. But if you want the chance to ask your own questions directly to me, go check it out, functionallawyer.com/membership. All right, so let's jump in. You are tired of telling people the same things over and over again, or you might want to just leverage your time by creating an online course, or you may want to help people that you can't otherwise see because they're in states where you're not licensed. And so you want to build an online course to at least help them, give them something to at least get value from you. Or people in your state might start with an online course before they come and see you individually. It can be a lower cost entry into who you are and the style of your practice, and they may get a lot of value out of it. And then for those that need individual support, then they can come to you as well. So there's a lot of good reasons to build online courses or other info products for patients or for people all over the world. So if that's where you're going, one, there are right ways and wrong ways to structure it, which means you want to make sure you're not practicing medicine. So if your course includes one-on-one visits, if it includes group visits, it's a little hairy as well. You want to make sure that you're doing those in a way that does not constitute the practice of medicine. The practice of medicine is a broad definition, and so I tend to steer people away from one-on-one visits if they're doing education products. And then with group Q&As, they have to kind of steer clear and be careful on how they answer those questions, although that's a little bit more allowable than one-to-one consultations. So I think, in my personal opinion, maybe talk to other attorneys, you may get different answers. One-to-one visits should be reserved for patients. Full stop. That's my opinion. You can charge more for it, and you won't have to worry about licensing issues in places where you're not licensed. So with all that out of the way, let's talk about, do you need a separate LLC for your online course business? It's sort of up to you. Again, if you talk to other attorneys, you might get different answers. So let's go through the pros and cons of starting a separate LLC. So why you might want a separate LLC is you can divide up any liability between companies. So you have your medical practice, and then you have an education and publishing LLC over here. If there's any issues with the LLC, then the liability is limited to that company alone. It won't cross over and attach assets from the sister company. That's not bulletproof. As long as you don't commingle funds and you treat them as separate entities, courts are unlikely to reach through, although it can happen if you do those two things. So that's one reason, you separate your liability between your practice and your education company. If you do it that way, there are clear dividing lines, both for you legally, but also for clients and patients. So clients, students going through your education courses would go through radiganeducation.com, and patients would go to radiganfunctionalmedicine.com, and there the two shall meet. Unless somebody becomes a patient, signs a patient agreement with you, gets a HIPAA form, all of that stuff. And that's why there's clear dividing lines. If you have your education company, you might look into licensing your materials to other providers who may not have the time or the inclination to build an online course, but want to pay you a royalty or a licensing fee for those services. And an education company can look into affiliate relationships, whereas medical practices have a lot more restrictions on commissions, kickbacks, all of those things. So that's why you might want a separate LLC. Why you may not want a separate LLC. And this doesn't have to be 100% black and white. You can start with it under your umbrella and then move it to a separate LLC once you've established that there's a product there and people like it and they're willing to give you money for it. Then you can assign that asset, all of that IP, over to your new LLC later. But you might not want a separate one if you are not willing to set up a new set of bank account. Again, we talked about you're not allowed to reach over and grab the assets of your medical practice, but that's only if you don't commingle your funds, both personally and between the two businesses. So Setting up a separate LLC means setting up a new set of business bank accounts, a new EIN with the IRS, a new tax filing with your tax return. So you'd have your personal tax return, practice tax return, education company tax return. When I say tax return, sometimes that takes the form of Schedule C, sometimes it takes the form of 1120F. So it just depends on the entity structure and how you've elected to be taxed. There's another video here in Functional Lawyer about S Corps versus LLCs. And then you would work with your CPA or other tax professional on how to actually file those. But it's an additional cost. It's an additional set of books to keep as well. And so those are three of the primary reasons why you may not want to initially start with a separate LLC. Which one you choose is totally up to you, based on your tax situation, your ability to handle the administrative role. If you have a partner or spouse or employee that can help you with all of that, then you may look into separate LLCs. But it's 100% up to you. If you need help deciding or you need help getting those set up, you can always reach out to me at Functional Lawyer or check out other videos on the topic here at Functional Lawyer YouTube channel. And we'll see you guys in the next video.